The story begins with a couple, Iris and Paul. That day, Paul prepared a special surprise for Iris. He took her out for a romantic dinner at the tallest building that had just opened in their city. The building is called Sky Tower, and that night was its grand opening. Thanks to his many connections, Paul managed to get tickets for the Sky Tower's opening event. The building is prestigious, especially because its construction was completed 5 months ahead of schedule. When they arrived at the lobby, the elevator going up was already packed. Iris didn't want to go up at first because she was scared, especially knowing the elevator's maximum capacity was only 12 people. But after Paul kept persuading her, they finally got on the elevator. Once they reached the top floor, they looked for a table but ran into a problem. It turned out the insider who helped Paul get VIP access had been fired earlier that morning, so their presence at the event wasn't welcomed by the staff. Luckily, they managed to sneak into the bar area without getting caught. From there, they enjoyed the city view from above. Not long after, Paul went to grab some free drinks. Meanwhile, suddenly Iris felt severe stomach cramps and pain. That's when we find out that Iris is actually 2 months pregnant. But until that moment, she hadn't told Paul about the pregnancy because she was afraid he would be disappointed. Iris thought Paul only enjoyed the fun parts of a relationship, but when it came to raising a child, he might run away. While Iris was in pain, a singer nearby noticed and tried to comfort her, showing concern. After that, Paul invited Iris to the rooftop to get some fresh air. During that moment, we started to see some strange signs that hinted something bad was going to happen. For example, a woman's hat was blown away by strong winds, and a young boy accidentally dropped a coin from the top of the building. Then, out of nowhere, Paul proposed to Iris on the rooftop. At that moment, Iris decided to be honest and told him she was pregnant. Fortunately, Paul wasn't mad or disappointed. In fact, he became even happier because he had always wanted to have children. Finally, Iris accepted Paul's proposal. To celebrate the special moment, they went to the dance floor in the building. But without realizing it, the dance floor already had cracks from a piece of glass that had fallen earlier. Iris started feeling something strange under her feet. Small tremors and cracks became noticeable. Suddenly, the entire floor collapsed. Many people fell from the tower, including Paul, who tried to hold on to the remaining glass, but his hands couldn't take it anymore. The whole place turned chaotic. People panicked and ran everywhere. Some were burned, others got caught in explosions. Everyone rushed toward the emergency stairs to escape. But even the emergency stairs collapsed. In the middle of the chaos, the young boy who dropped the coin earlier was still alive. Everyone tried to run to the elevator, but it was already over capacity. Everyone inside was crushed to death. Iris tried to find another way out, but all her efforts were useless. Things got worse when the Sky Tower suddenly split into 2 massive parts. At first, everything looked stable, but then, a grand piano fell due to the coin that the boy had thrown. At that point, Iris was the only one left alive. But surprisingly, the boy was still alive too. Iris tried to save the boy, and the two of them clung to the debris of the building. But they were both too weak to hold on any longer, and eventually, they both fell. It turns out everything that happened earlier, from the Sky Tower collapsing to the people dying, was just a dream experienced by a college student named Stefani. For the past 2 months, she has been having the same recurring dream over and over about the Sky Tower tragedy and a woman named Iris. Stefani then told her roommate about the dream. She said she kept dreaming about a woman named Iris who died in that building. What made her even more convinced was the fact that her own grandmother's name was also Iris. Feeling stressed and confused, Stefani decided to go home for a while to rest and clear her mind. When she arrived home, Stefani was greeted by her father and her younger brother Charlie. At that moment, Stefani also told her dad about the strange dreams she kept having. She believed the Iris in her dreams was actually their biological grandmother. Not long after, Charlie came downstairs. He seemed a bit lazy and indifferent when he saw Stefani, maybe because they often argued like typical siblings. But even so, Stefani still cared about him and offered to take Charlie to visit their relatives. On the way, Stefani told Charlie again about what happened at college. She explained that she was suspended because her grades dropped. It all happened because she kept having bad dreams about their grandmother, Iris. When they arrived at their relative's house, Charlie and Stefani were welcomed by the whole family. Some of the people there included Eric, Bobby, Julia, Uncle Howard, and Aunt Brenda. During that gathering, it was obvious that Charlie was closer to Julia than to his own sister, Stefani. Without wasting time, Stefani immediately asked Uncle Howard and Aunt Brenda about their grandmother, Iris. She wanted to know more about their family history, but strangely, Uncle Howard was reluctant to talk. He simply said that Grandma Iris was weird, even considered mentally unstable. Howard also shared that because of Iris, their mother, Darlin, went crazy and lost her sanity. In the past, Iris would lock herself inside the house and strictly forbid her children from going outside. Still curious, Stefani begged Aunt Brenda to tell her where Grandma Iris was living now. Feeling sorry for her, Aunt Brenda finally gave Stefani the address of Iris's current home. The place turned out to be deep in the woods. Without wasting any time, Stefani went there to meet her grandmother. When she arrived, the place looked like a fortress, with tall fences surrounding the area and CCTV cameras installed in every corner. Slowly, Stefani pressed the intercom button at the gate and introduced herself as Iris's granddaughter. After that, Grandma Iris finally allowed Stefani to come in. But when Stefani entered, Iris didn't approach her right away. She looked cautious, making sure that Stefani really was her granddaughter. Once Iris was convinced, they started talking. Stefani told her about her mother Darlin, who left her when she was only 10 years old. She also explained about the recurring nightmare she kept having, where she saw Iris dying at the Sky Tower. Grandma Iris explained that it wasn't just an ordinary dream. What Stefani saw was a vision of the future. Years ago, while at the Sky Tower, Iris had a vision showing that everyone in the building was going to die. Because of that, Iris worked hard to save everyone there.
About to break, everyone needs to get off now! Wait, no! Get off!
As a result, the Sky Tower was permanently shut down and never reopened. Since Iris managed to save so many people, the Grim Reaper wasn't happy. One by one, those who had escaped death at the Sky Tower eventually died, including Iris's fiancé, Paul. For years, Iris had been protecting herself from death. But now, she was battling cancer. Iris wanted to teach Stefani everything she knew about the visions and what they meant. She had even written down all the important knowledge and events in a notebook. But Stefani refused to believe any of it. She thought her grandmother had gone crazy from isolating herself in that place for too long. To prove what she was saying, Grandma Iris stepped out of the house, and just like what was written in her notebook, Iris died in a horrifying way, exactly as predicted. Seeing that, Stefani was terrified. She couldn't stop thinking about all the bad signs and visions she had experienced so far. After that tragic incident, Stephanie became even more scared and anxious. She started to realize that everything her grandmother said was true. On the day of Grandma Iris's funeral, suddenly Darlin, Stephanie's mother, showed up. Stephanie, who had been abandoned by her mom for so long, was immediately upset. She was angry because all these years her mother never came back, never cared about them. But surprisingly, Charlie, Stephanie's younger brother, got mad at Stephanie instead. Charlie pointed out that while Stephanie was away at college, she never came home either and never answered his calls. From his point of view, Stephanie had also disappeared from the family. Stephanie returned home and started reading everything inside the notebook left by Grandma Iris. In that notebook, she found important notes, including details about the deadly curse that had been haunting their family. She also saw fragments of incidents similar to what happened in the previous Final Destination movies. Meanwhile, over at Uncle Howard's house, the family was getting ready for a barbecue party. Darlin also came to the party. Without realizing it, Darlin brought peanut cookies, even though Bobby has a severe peanut allergy. Before the party officially started, Uncle Howard gave a short speech to honor the passing of Grandma Iris. After that, everyone began drinking and enjoying the party, but no one noticed that one of the glasses had small shards of glass in it, which could be dangerous. We returned to Stephanie at home, still reading Grandma Iris's notebook. In the notebook, we see notes describing a series of deadly events that are similar to the ones from the Final Destination franchise. At that moment, Stephanie began feeling a bad premonition. She was convinced someone else from the family would die next, this time at the barbecue party. Back at the party, Uncle Howard offered Darlin a place to stay with them, instead of living in her mobile trailer. But Darlin refused, saying she didn't want to be a burden to the family. While the kids were playing on the trampoline, Darlin noticed a garden fork lying dangerously underneath the trampoline. Thankfully, she quickly removed the fork before anything bad happened. Not long after, Stephanie showed up at the party with a panicked look on her face. At first, everything seemed fine, but suddenly, the garden fork fell back to the ground.
Good. It's okay.
No one could stop it, and tragedy struck. Uncle Howard died in a gruesome accident, just as the deadly pattern had predicted.
Mourning nor pain, and he shall wipe away.
After Howard's funeral, Stephanie gathered the entire family. She explained all the strange things she had been experiencing, including the deadly sequence she discovered. Stephanie laid out the order of who would die next. Based on the predictions, after Uncle Howard, the next to die would be Eric. Then Julia, followed by Bobby, then her own mother, Darlin. Next would be Stephanie herself, and the last one would be Charlie. Unfortunately, both Eric and Julia didn't believe Stephanie's story. They thought it was all just a coincidence or nonsense. Even though Stephanie tried to explain everything, they still didn't believe her. Darlin stepped in to calm Stephanie down. According to Darlin, the deaths of Grandma Iris and Uncle Howard were just coincidences, not part of a deadly curse. The story then shifts to Eric, who was working at his tattoo shop. After finishing work, Eric blasted loud music while tidying up the place. He was still grieving after losing his father, Uncle Howard. To honor Howard's memory, Eric tattooed his own arm. But soon after, strange things began happening. Eric struggled to remove the chain attached to his nose piercing. In a panic, he climbed onto a table to untangle it. Things got worse when some flammable alcohol spilled onto the floor and caught fire. The next morning, Stephanie was worried because Eric didn't answer her calls all night. She and Charlie rushed over to check on him. To their surprise, Eric was completely fine. He survived because he had been wearing a fireproof jacket, so his body didn't burn despite the fire at the tattoo shop. But Eric still didn't believe Stephanie's story about the curse. In fact, he teased Stephanie, saying he'd be fine and wouldn't die. Throughout their trip, Eric kept mocking the idea of death, acting like he wasn't scared at all. Meanwhile, we see Julia jogging casually. Suddenly, without realizing it, she stepped behind a garbage truck. The driver of the truck, wearing headphones and listening to music, didn't notice Julia was there. By the time they stopped the truck, it was already too late. Julia was dead, her body crushed inside the garbage truck. Stephanie was devastated, losing people she cared about one by one. She was also confused because based on the order, Eric should have died first, not Julia. Then, a shocking truth was revealed. Eric was not Uncle Howard's biological son. He was the result of an affair between Aunt Brenda and another man. That meant after Julia, the next one destined to die was Bobby. Knowing that, they had to find a way to save Bobby from the deadly curse. Stephanie remembered something from Grandma Iris's notebook. It mentioned that one person had managed to survive this curse before. His name was JB, a close friend of Grandma Iris, who now worked at a hospital. Without wasting time, they rushed to find JB. Bobby joined them too, feeling safer with the group than being left alone at home. On the way to the hospital, Darlin tried to fix her relationship with Stephanie. She explained why she left Stephanie and Charlie when they were still little kids. It turns out Darlin had experienced the same strange things that Stephanie was going through now. She used to have visions or strong feelings about the death of people close to her. Because she was afraid of putting her children in danger, Darlin decided to leave, hoping her kids could live a normal life without the burden of the curse. When they arrived at the hospital, they went straight in to meet a man named JB. If you've seen the previous Final Destination movies, you might recognize JB. It turns out JB is the little boy that Grandma Iris saved during the Sky Tower tragedy. JB explained that all this time, Grandma Iris had been hiding in a remote cabin to protect herself and the family from death chasing them down. JB was the one who helped Iris survive by staying hidden and keeping their distance from the outside world. JB also explained there were only two ways to stop the deadly curse: taking another person's life and stealing their remaining lifespan, or dying first, then being revived by a doctor. But the second option was extremely risky. If they failed to revive the person, they would be truly dead for good. That's why JB had already accepted his fate. He had chosen to simply enjoy whatever time he had left, instead of trying to fight the curse. JB also shared one final piece of advice. Enjoy every second of your life because life is precious and could end at any moment. After that, they realized Bobby and Eric had disappeared. It turns out Eric had come up with a reckless plan. He wanted to make Bobby die temporarily and then bring him back to life, just like JB had explained. They even briefly considered the extreme idea of ending a baby's life at the hospital to stop the curse. But thankfully, they still had common sense and didn't follow through with that crazy plan. In the end, Eric chose another method. He bought food containing peanuts, knowing that Bobby had a severe peanut allergy. Eric hoped that by doing this, Bobby would die temporarily, and they could revive him afterward. When they tried to get the peanut snack from the vending machine, the machine jammed and got slightly damaged. They proceeded to the MRI room, filled with advanced medical equipment. Suddenly, the MRI machine activated by itself after the door slammed shut. Once everything was set, Bobby started eating the peanut snack. At first, he even enjoyed the snack, but not long after, his allergy kicked in, and he struggled to breathe. Meanwhile, the MRI machine kept running, and its magnetic power grew stronger, pulling all the metal objects in the area. The situation spiraled out of control. Eric was crushed by the MRI machine as all the metal objects were violently pulled into it. Bobby, still alive, tried to grab his allergy medication that was in Eric's hand, but fate had other plans. The damaged part of the vending machine suddenly broke loose and shot straight toward Bobby. In the end, Bobby died too. Now, only Stephanie, Charlie, and Darlin remained. They refused to give up so easily. They remembered how Grandma Iris managed to survive for years by isolating herself in that remote cabin. They planned to go to that cabin and repeat what Iris had done, hoping to break the deadly curse. In this plan, Darlin volunteered to stay hidden inside the cabin. She understood that, according to the sequence, she was the next one destined to die. If she could survive by isolating herself, the death order would stop, and the curse wouldn't continue to the other family members. Before heading to the cabin, there was one thing they didn't notice. A coin fell out from Grandma Iris's notebook, which Stephanie had been holding. An old woman nearby picked up the coin, unaware that the coin was still part of their unfinished deadly fate. Long story short, they arrived at the cabin. The gate was locked, so they were forced to break in. But as they stood in front of the cabin, disaster struck again. Stefani's seatbelt in the car jammed and couldn't be released. Inside the cabin, the place was already filled with toxic gas. When a small spark occurred, a massive explosion followed. Stefani was thrown into the lake, while Charlie was pinned down by debris. Luckily, Darlin arrived just in time and managed to save Charlie. But fate couldn't be avoided. A large beam behind Darlin suddenly collapsed, crushing her and causing her death. Charlie refused to dwell in grief. He immediately rushed to help Stefani, who was drowning in the lake. At that moment, Stefani began losing consciousness. She was on the verge of death. But fortunately, Charlie succeeded in reviving Stefani. With Stefani surviving, they believed the deadly curse had been broken. At least for now. The next morning, under a bright and clear sky, Charlie was getting ready to go on a date with the girl he liked. Stephanie accompanied him, giving him some advice like a caring big sister. But on the way, we saw the same old woman who had picked up the fallen coin earlier. This time, she accidentally dropped the coin again. The coin rolled away and landed right on the train tracks. They met the father of Charlie's girlfriend, who happened to be a doctor. Coincidentally, he was also the one who treated Stephanie during the previous incident. The doctor explained that during the accident that night, Stephanie wasn't actually dead. She had only passed out because she had swallowed too much water. That's why she was still able to survive thanks to Charlie's help. But suddenly, Stephanie started feeling that same strange premonition again. That familiar sense of fear returned. And then, without warning, everyone around them died in a horrific and brutal way. Thank you for watching.